I hate gift giving and receiving.
Receiving gifts is so weird. What do you say, thank you?
This is Coffee Convos with Kail Lowry and Lindsie Chrisley.
I really want you to be in your feels, Kail.
That does not interest me whatsoever.
I feel very attacked by you.
A spirited discussion about motherhood, friendship, family, and life in the public eye.
I'm just not with the fakery anymore.
There's a fakery bakery around here.
Here's Kail and Lindsie.
Good morning, Coffee Combos. Good afternoon, Lindsie.
It was supposed to be morning.
I'm so sorry.
Good afternoon, Kail and Lowry. How are you?
I'm so tired. I can't shake it. I literally cannot shake it. So I'm struggling today. I need to apologize to you and Kristen both because Kristen told me days ago that I needed to record this morning and I just didn't think about it, completely slipped my mind. I overslept and I'm sorry that I was late and left you guys hanging because I was like, oh, I have nothing to do. I have nothing to do in the morning so I can sleep in. And I was wrong.
Just want to say sleeping in like by accident in general is truly the worst feeling. I mean, I could probably think of worse feelings, but it's one of the worst feelings ever because you always wake up in a state of, oh, fuck. I have missed half of the day. And you've probably, for me, sometimes it might be sleeping in like 9 minutes too late. For you, it's hours too late. But I just feel absolutely chaotic. And then I'm like trying to do stuff that I normally would do, like something as simple as like putting toothpaste on a toothbrush is like really hard.
I didn't even wake up thinking that I overslept. It wasn't until I picked up my phone and looked at the amount of missed calls that I had between and text from you, Kristen, Elijah, Natalie, and I was just like, oh, wow, like I completely dropped the ball here. And on top of it, I have a company dinner tonight. Knew I had the company dinner, did not bring makeup or anything to be prepared for that dinner. So just mom brain in general is within the last 2 days has been really fucking me in the ass.
Can I just say that remember that time like long ago, you might not remember it, but when I said I was like going to call the police to your house.
Yes.
Okay. And like Kristen was like driving down the highway screaming at me, telling me don't call the police, that she's on the way.
Yes.
Because I was panicking.
Yeah, I remember.
I think Kristen and I both got in our heads that something like bad had happened to you. And we were like, okay, this might not be an oversleeping incident. And of course, my psychotic ass, true crime loving ass, says, I think you need to call the front desk and request a wellness check if she has not touched base with us by her checkout time of that room.
I am not supposed to check out today.
Can you imagine though, if they were knocking like on your door and it was like 911 knocking on your door?
Well, what pissed me off too is that like, I didn't even think Kaden came to my room this morning because, Kaden and Natalie were here in New York with me and Kaden came to my door at like, I don't know, like 7 or 9 or something and was looking for something. And I didn't even think to look at my phone at that time. And I feel like if I would have looked at my phone around when he came into the room, I would have also checked my calendar and I didn't. So it was just like a clusterfuck. And I'm glad that you guys didn't call the police. I'm glad you guys didn't do a wellness check. I'm fine.
No, I was going to call Kristen if it reached noon and there had been no sightings or rumblings of Kail and Ray Lowry. There was a wellness check happening.
Yeah. Well, thank you for understanding. I apologize for my mom brain. How's it going? You went to the gym. You're a sweaty mess. What are your plans?
Well, when the day got completely fucking derailed, I told Kristen this morning, I was like, well, seems as if like I'm doing things out of order today. So I went to the gym. I love how people talk about how much I go to the car wash, but I really just like wanted to talk about that for a second. I have a car wash membership that I pay for and I get every ounce of water that I pay for every single month. I drive my car through that thing almost every single day. There's been a couple of times that it'll be like on the weekend and I'm just like, I don't have time to do that. But for most of the time, that is like part of my daily routine. Like I like to go and get all of the nasty like dust and like rocks and shit that have been on my shoes, like off my floor mats, and, you know, just like get all the dust that's collected on the console and like all that off every day. And so I'm really getting my money's worth. So I feel like no one should be upset about that. Went to the car wash. I told you about my Vivrel membership, and
because I also signed up for it under your link.
You also signed up for it. I had to take my bag to like exchange it. So I went and did that and made a nail appointment. And then I went by Chick-fil-A to do my couple times a week little Chick-fil-A meal that I do with the kale salad and the chicken. And now I'm doing sriracha and 1 pack of buffalo sauce, but I used to do 2 packs of buffalo sauce. But honestly, that like will burn your asshole.
Yeah, sriracha doesn't, I don't even know what that is. I'm not sure if I like that or not, but it doesn't sound appetizing to me by any means.
It's so good. I feel like, okay, Will doesn't really like sriracha that much. And it's weird because he's like a big hot sauce lover. Remember back when he was dating Lawyer Girl and they told us in the Kitty Gang group chat that he went to Oak Steakhouse and like ordered hot sauce?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember that.
I was like, how foul. Like, you go to a nice ass steakhouse and then you're out there ordering hot sauce like on a first date. Like, you would be done for me. But big hot sauce lover and does not love sriracha. I'm a big hot sauce lover, not as much as he is, but like I love it. I love like spicy food in general. But sriracha, this one from Chick-fil-A is like a sweet and spicy kind of. So it's real good. And then like you add the little buffalo pack in there and it's really good. But if you want to burn your asshole, do the 2 buffalo packs because it definitely will.
Okay. And this is in the kale salad.
Yeah, this is in the kale salad, spelled Kale, not Kail.
Right.
And yeah, so I went there to get that and got fried nuggets instead of grilled, which I normally get grilled nuggets. No one come for me for that either, because if you tell me that it tastes like flubber, it just doesn't. So I'm tired of getting these messages. I'm tired of everybody messaging me, harassing me about the grilled chicken from Chick-fil-A and how it's rubbery and flubbery.
It is.
Did you also harass me about that?
Probably. I don't think they're good. I don't think there's anything good about them, but now I want Chick-fil-A and I don't know if they have Chick-fil-A in a city.
It was so good. And I also got a diet lemonade. Have you ever had lemonade from Chick-fil-A?
The what?
The lemonade from Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, I love and I also have had the half iced tea, half lemonade.
That's called an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good. I love Arnold. Whoever he is, I
we
love him.
Arnold.
Arnold Palmer, if you're listening to this, I love you.
Is that a person?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think he was a golfer. And the diet lemonade is much better than the regular lemonade. If you need to be doing a taste test, I suggest you guys to do so because you will back me on this. So I got that. I told you about how my favorite summer drink is to go and get a large diet lemonade and bring it home and put vodka in it.
Yeah, you did say that. I wonder if anyone's tried it since you said that.
I don't know, but I hope that you all have because it was a good time in your mouth if you did. I kind of feel a little guilty because I'm putting the liquor drink like in the Lord's cup.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, should I really be doing this? But he forgave me, so it's okay.
Right. Well, that's good. We love that.
I love that. But the reason that I got fried chicken was because I just have had quite a shitty week as well. And so I was trying to decide if this was going to be lazy combos, if this was going to be depressed combos, if this, like, what was going on. I think it's a little bit of combination of both.
It could be combos.
Yes. Wait, do your kids call coffee combos?
Yes.
So does Jackson. And I'm like, bro, like,
get it right.
It's combos, and it always has been. Like, stop making something up and stop promoting my business wrong.
He's trying.
I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, just like not had the best week. And there's one reason for it. And I don't want to go into too much detail about it because I've tried to keep certain things like private and feel the situation out for myself before like really opening up about anything publicly. But I am starting to gain a better understanding of, remember way back when I busted your chops about you saying that you don't want to date men with children. And I was
Yes.
like, how can you say that when you're bringing children to the table? Like, is that really fair for someone else? It's hard.
It's so funny because when you said that you wanted to talk about this, I was like, we've talked about this before. We've talked about this so many times. So I was just like, I wonder what you were going to say. I can imagine it would be hard because just think about being in an actual relationship with your child's father, or just other parent in general. And you guys in the relationship have two different parenting styles. And then you throw into the mix, a divorce or a separation or a breakup, and then you meet someone that has children. Imagine those, parenting styles. And after how many years, you don't know how old the child is. So if the child is young or older, and it's not just your parenting style and said person's parenting style, it's also their ex-partner's parenting style, and it's just a lot to bring to one household. And so I really think it's for special people, like people who really have it figured out, and I don't have it figured out.
Coffee Convos podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp.
All right, y'all. The weather is changing. We want to feel good. Lindsie and I have preached to you guys about therapy so many times, but therapy really can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. We cannot stress this enough. You have to fill your own cup before you can fill anybody else's. For me, I've been in therapy for a really long time, years now. And even if you're not going through something right now, you can still develop the tools for when you do hit a bump in the road in your life, or, life throws a curveball, you're able to kind of handle it better than you would have without therapy.
It's interesting that you say that because I was just having a conversation with Kristen last night about how everyone needs something from you and you never really take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. And when you spend all of your time giving it to someone else, it can leave you feeling stretched and thin and burnt out. And for those reasons alone, therapy is A1. It can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You're just going to fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/coffee today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/coffee.
Well, I just want to tell you about a quick podcast study here. As you know, by now, we all do our very best to align the right sponsors to the podcast. It's a lot of work behind the scenes, and I'm incredibly grateful for your support. We're currently running a quick survey at podcastsurvey.com, and we're giving the first 150 people a $10 digital Amazon gift card as an incentive to complete the survey.
The information that we hear from you about our sponsors is incredibly important to the show, and we can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes to help us out. Upon completion of the survey, you'll be asked to include your email address, and we will send the first 150 people a $10 gift card from Amazon. Go to podcastingsurvey.com. And again, thank you for helping our show and our sponsors. I never really thought about this, and I don't know why it wasn't something that I thought about when I was growing up, because my dad came into his and Julie's marriage with 2 children already.
Right.
And she's 5 years younger than him. And so he was already like a young dad, right? Mm-hmm. 21 with me, 22 or 23 by the time Kail came. And you got to consider at 1 year old, she was 5 years younger than what he was then. So like she was very young to be coming into a situation with a man with 2 children. And I do think that it takes a special person to be able to go into a relationship open-minded to be able to love on other children as, one, you would your own, but two, be willing to take on all of the hardships that come along with taking on other people's children, let's say if it's 50% of the time. Like you said, with two different households, I can only go off of my lived experience, and my parents really only co-parented up until I was in fourth grade, and then it started taking a shift.
Okay.
But we would go between households, right? And it was a 50-50 split. I don't remember how they did it, if it was week on, week off. Like, I can't remember way back then. And honestly, I think that actually my therapist said that I have mentally blocked out some of that stuff that would have been considered trauma, early childhood traumatic experience. I blocked out a lot of it, so I can only go off of just like the small bits and pieces that I actually do remember.
Right.
But I would remember small things like, and these are probably so minuscule, but people who are listening to this, you'll either relate or you're going through it, and it feels so big at the time probably, but looking back on it, it probably wasn't as big of a deal as what it was made to be. Like for getting lunch money. Because nothing was consistent and there was no cohesiveness between like the parents. So ultimately the kids suffer, right? Because I had anxiety way back then. Like I would get in the lunch line and be afraid that like one of them forgot to put lunch money on my thing, or making sure that I had tennis shoes for PE. Like there would be lots of days where my dad or Julie would have to drop off tennis shoes like on the back of my mom's Suburban, and we would go outside barefooted, get the shoes to go to school, or vice versa.
That gives me so much anxiety now as a parent, because the lunch money thing and the gym clothes thing, because Isaac's at an age where he needs, school clothes, gym clothes to change into. And it gives me so much anxiety. I have just made the executive decision without even really talking to, Javi or Chris or Joe about the lunch money thing. I just have it on auto pay, and I am the one that does the lunch money thing, and I really don't ever ask them. I think in the beginning I originally asked Javi like 1 or 2 times to put money in the account, but I just like completely forgot. Now it's on auto pay. Those things give me anxiety because I grew up always without lunch money. For elementary school, I had free lunch because I had a single mom who was, not able-bodied to some degree. And then in high school, my best friend Ariel paid for my lunch every single day. Nobody made sure I had lunch money. So those things give me anxiety now, and I completely understand what you're saying.
So I think about, stuff back from like my childhood, and then getting into a situation with someone else, like you said, when there's like a lot of differences there. You've got to consider those things when you would be considering a long-term situation, because I do look at things very long-term. If I'm putting myself and my son in a situation to be commingling with other people or another man and their children, I have to think of the long-term things. And do I want some of those bad things that could be coming from another household imprinting somewhat on my son through other people's children?
Yeah, and they will. Those types of things will imprint on your children, both subconsciously and consciously. You know what I mean? Like those, just like their friends, even just their friends, they pick up each other's habits or lingo, or, I've done it myself as an adult. You spend too much time with somebody and you start saying some of the words that they say, or you say, things how they say it. And the same thing goes with our kids, and they're more impressionable as children. So it's kind of scary. You could just hope that, the person coming into the relationship, it, has a good, strong foundation in their parenting. Otherwise, you can't really, once you're set in your ways at a certain age, I don't feel like you can change that. Whereas someone who does not have children will almost learn from you. I'm sure there are going to be times, and I've gone through it, where like they don't know what to do, or they don't handle a situation greatly. Is greatly a word? Greatly? Did I use it right? Um, they don't handle a situation as I would or something like that, but then you can teach them how you handle things, and you can kind of, it's almost like starting over with I don't know how to describe
because
it.
people who aren't coming into a situation with the same thing that you have, I believe that they're probably a bit more coachable because they haven't experienced it on their own.
Right. And then it can be more of a conversation when they start to develop their own techniques as parents, because they will. It can be more of a conversation and what you're comfortable with, them doing in, raising your child.
And, for me at 33 years old, if I'm going to be investing in a relationship and investing in anyone who also is, bringing children along into the situation, which I've told you before, like that was a plus for me,
Right.
like somebody who had been married before, somebody who has children, because there's a level of understanding there. But at the point that there's a level of understanding, but there's so many differences, what do you say is your deal breakers? Because I don't want to disrupt what I currently have going on, because Will and I weren't great always. And we all know that. Everybody who's listening, you and I both know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it took that rockiness and both people putting our foots down and saying, okay, you know what? Cut your bullshit. I'm going to cut my bullshit. The main thing here is Jackson and us properly raising him and us being able to get along to do that. It took two of us to fuck to make him. So it's going to take two of us to raise him. So we need to focus on that. And there have not been any issues, but I haven't met a man with children that has a dick big enough that can fit in two women's pockets.
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So unless you're rolling in with 9 inches, you don't have none to spare. So it's either in my pocket or it's not.
Well, I think it needs to be, you have to decide that it's in your pocket, because you can't, no. This isn't, you're not Nick Cannon. You know what I mean?
Outside of that, it's also hard for someone who has a public following like you or like myself to even date, because, and even more so, date someone with children, because chances are, I'm sure there are some outliers, but chances are those children have a mother that is involved in the situation.
Right. Yeah.
Said mother is probably going to be opinionated about you being involved in the equation because you're a quick Google search.
Well, that's what's and that's almost scarier too, because, the headlines and the media doesn't always have a complete picture or an accurate depiction of the situation. They only have whatever information they've picked up from, Instagram or a source or whatever the case may be. And so that's almost discouraging as well, because you don't know how true that stuff is.
Well, and when you hear things, and I'm just speaking from my lived experience again, when you hear things like porn star, prison parents, problems with podcast content, problems with things posted on my Instagram, the list goes on and on. It's like, last time I checked, I didn't fuck you.
Right. Well, that's a fact.
And last time I checked, I was just fucking who you used to be fucking.
Right.
And if he still wanted to be fucking you, he would. Right. And since he's not, I don't think that you need to have an opinion on what I'm doing on my platforms that I've done for however many years.
It's a lot. I really look up to my one cousin. She got divorced around the same time as I did. And I've talked about her before. She had 2 kids, married someone who also has 2 kids. And the way their family blended together, almost so seamless. And I don't think it was completely seamless, but it was more so because of his ex being kind of like an asshole. The kids and the parenting came together almost so seamlessly. And it would be a world of a difference if all of us could do that, but it's just not realistic. You know what I mean? Like the lucky ones that have it figured out, they get it together and they do it. But for us, for you and I, because you also have to add the element of being a public figure, like you just said. You add that into the mix and it's a shit show.
Well, and do I believe, you know, in my case, obviously I'm going to be with a man that would have an ex-wife or whatever, ex-girlfriend who he had kids with, whatever the situation may be. That person is going to have an opinion about me. I don't care about people's opinions about me, but at the point that you carry on and you carry on and you carry on and think that someone's hearing you more, you're actually just pissing people off more.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true.
And like, if you aren't jealous of me, then stop talking about me.
But also that's easier said than done, right? Because, I mean, how long did it take me to get to a good point with, you know, Joe and V, or, you know, to be in a really solid place with Javi and his partner again, you know? Like it sounds good. It sounds easy. It sounds like but there's so many personal feelings involved that you have to let go of. And sometimes it just takes a really long time to get there.
Well, and then, you know, that brings me to my next point of, if there's still personal feelings involved, then why are you guys in the situation that you're in? And why are you involving other people in that situation?
Well, let me play devil's advocate, because I've been in a situation where I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. And then I've also been in a situation where the other one person in the situation has had feelings and the other person doesn't. And so the person that has the feelings makes it very difficult for the one that is trying to move on. You know what I mean? And I've been in both places, I would say.
But doesn't that require the person who doesn't have feelings to set proper boundaries?
Correct. And I will say this again, I've said it time and time again, they need to be respectfully and clearly stated. And that is my biggest thing. And I'm so thankful to be in a place there with, you know, everybody that I have children with, but it wasn't always that way. You know, you don't have to be a dick. You don't have to be an asshole about it. I mean, to the point where, you know, you've said it respectfully and you've said it, you know, nicely, and you try to be amicable and it doesn't work. You know, but when they've never been clearly stated, they've never been respectfully stated, you can't expect someone to read your mind and know what the boundaries are. For us, you know, 2 out of 3, email works really, really well. And, you know, when we're respectfully having a conversation, it works really well.
Well, and, you know, I understand, again, going back to the public figure statement, that everyone is going to say whatever they want to say and have the opinions that they're going to have about you, whether they be true or whether they not. I'm not in the mind-changing business, because I don't care what your mind says. So I'm not getting myself into that business, because I'm not going to get a paycheck from that. So
because I'm not going to get a paycheck from that. I mean, that's one way to look at it.
This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar. Now get 20% off every IQ Bar product plus free shipping when you text Convos to 64,000. Kail, have you tried IQ Bar? Because if you have not, it is the snack that stays in my car, in my pantry, and in my mouth.
Listen, there's just something about like the plant protein and the brain nutrients that I feel like I'm already smarter when I eat it. Okay? And sometimes, I don't know if this is recommended or not, but sometimes I get up in the middle of the night for like a little midnight snack, and that's what I grab.
Well, it's healthy, so I think that it's great. Plus, it fits every diet. So keto, paleo, vegan, gluten-free, all of them. And if you're trying to eat healthier, like sounds like what Kail's trying to do, you have discovered a truly healthy protein bar when you try IQ Bar, because it tastes amazing. It's packed with plant protein, brain nutrients, and fiber. And there's next to no sugar or net carbs in the bar. Comes in 7 mouth-watering flavors. You're not going to believe how good they taste, especially considering the fact that they have next to no sugar or net carbs. It's mind-blowing to me.
So I love them. Lindsie loves them. Our kids love them. And now you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, just text combos to 64,000 to get your discount. Text combos to 64,000. That's combos to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
with that being said, though, I just don't understand having such strong opinions about an individual that you've never met.
Explain a little bit.
Like, I would never, it's kind of like you and I talked about, you know, someone going on Instagram and just making like foul comments about someone that they don't even know, like their life situation or anything that's going on, but they're just dedicating their time to hating that person.
Oh, I mean, well, that's a mental illness.
Like that, I don't know what mental illness that is, but it's one. Like it's something
that's really weird, and it has to be a mental illness.
But like at the point that someone like stalks your every move and knows more about what you're doing than what you are, and is just so committed to hating you and have never met you, that to me is weird as fuck.
It's so weird. It's so so funny that you brought that up because I just got a message today of on Twitter, which I never checked for Twitter really, but I got a DM. And she was like, hey, so-and-so is posting about you again. And I was just like, I've never met this person in my life. And like, I get it. It sort of comes with the territory, but to the point that you remove yourself from TV and, you know, you make these necessary steps to grow and mature and just like evolve. Why are you still dedicated to hating me to the, like, I've never looked at a person that I've never met and been like, I hate their guts. I've just never done it.
It's those types of people are more dedicated to the negative behavior than they are committed to positive growth.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that says everything about them and nothing about you.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with that.
And it's hard, you know, my parents told me my whole life, take the high road. Take the high road.
And I get that. And sometimes it works, but also sometimes the fuck it doesn't.
But and also, you know, when I first got into this business and people, you know, would say and have their opinions about, you know, whatever they wanted to have their opinions about, I don't fucking know. Will would always say, take the high road. It's less traveled. Don't engage. Like, don't get in the nitty gritty with them. Like, it's going to be a forever back and forth. Just let it, my nanny will say, like a duck, let it fall off your back or whatever the fuck she says. It's like, no, because I'm not a duck. And no, you don't get to tell me what the high road is. Like, right. Is the high road me ignoring it, or is the high road me finally addressing it, standing up for myself and what I know is right and addressing it to put you in your place, to let you know it's not your place to do what you're doing and you need to back off.
That's a good point too. I never thought of it that way. Like what someone else thinks is the high road might not be what you think is the high road.
It was kind of like a conversation that I was having with somebody not too long ago about, you know, and then it kind of became a heated conversation of, you don't get to tell me what my mountain is or what my molehill is, just like I don't get to tell you what it is. Like, if it's big to me, it's big to me, and if it's little to you, it can remain little to you, but it being little to you does not diminish the fact that it's big for me.
Right. Agreed. I agree with that. I definitely agree.
I hate when you get into like a relational dispute and one person is so committed to it not being a big deal that it's just a constant diminishing of
your
how
feelings.
You feel. And it's like, okay, well, you can stay committed to feeling like that. That's good and great for you. But last time I checked, I wasn't you.
You don't get to make a decision on what is a big deal to me.
Like, this isn't a we decision. Like, this is how I feel and this is how you feel. And I am definitely the type of person, I have grown through therapy to be okay with not reaching common ground and agreeing to disagree. Like, I have learned to do that very successfully and putting things in the proper place where they belong.
Agreed. I mean, setting boundaries is hard enough in and of itself, but that is one of it. You got to set boundaries to let people know that they don't get to dictate how you feel about certain things.
1000%. Actually, I saw this TikTok on boundaries, and it says, baby, let me tell you something. 9 times out of 10, when you set boundaries, you're going to disappoint somebody. You're going to offend somebody because now you're taking your power back. You're not giving people access to you like they used to have. You're basically putting yourself first and putting everyone else in line. It's just like you breaking bread to them. You cannot just come and take the whole loaf of bread. Now I have the bread. I'm going to give you how much bread I see fit to give you. That is when you are setting boundaries. You have to be so confident in those boundaries that you have to make a decision that you aren't making concessions for anybody.
So I have a quick question about this, and I was thinking about it on the way here. I was thinking about it unrelated to this, but it fits. When two friends, I'll use you and I as an example just because we're here having this conversation. What if we are having two separate boundaries that conflict? Then what do we do with our friendship? Because we both want each other to abide by our boundaries, but what do we do when they don't work for each other? Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, I think at that point, I wish I had an example, but I think that it's a point of if the boundaries are so set and no person is willing to meet in the middle, and I'm not saying to completely neglect the boundary, but to meet to the point of a level of understanding, then obviously the friendship doesn't mean enough to you to do that. So I think at that point, then you have a hard line in the sand, they have a hard line in the sand, and you go separate ways.
And that's okay.
And that is okay.
Okay. I think that's a really good example. Have boundaries, but if you value the friendship and they're conflicting, there maybe is a middle ground where you guys both have your boundaries respected, but you guys can make it work. It's kind of like a relationship, and there has to be some degree of compromise, but not necessarily compromising the boundaries, maybe just how the relationship functions.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I was explaining to somebody literally last night that somebody else's lack of boundary setting doesn't get to become a nuisance on mine. So if I have a boundary and I say, this is my boundary, and what that person is doing, whether they are directly, involved in my life or not, at the point that what they're doing is impacting my life and my ability to be able to function in the situation that I'm in, then that doesn't get to become my problem. That doesn't get to become my burden.
Right.
It's kind of like somebody else's emergency doesn't constitute as one on mine.
When you told me that for the first time, I have used that time and time again because I cannot tell you how frustrating it was. And I was guilty at the time when you said that to me. I was guilty of I guess, acting like that. And not necessarily towards you, but just like in general, I'd be like, well, I fucked up, so now it's an emergency for everybody else. Once I got, I had a reality check. I was like, oh yeah, no, this is not how this works. And I would use it towards MTV. I would use it towards my kids. It was just like, it's a staple in your life, and that's how people should really operate, in my opinion.
I mean, it's an emergency on your part doesn't constitute as one on mine. I literally tell that to everybody. And people would say, oh, if you say that to your parents, that's disrespectful. No, because you should also have boundaries within your relationships with your family. Like, because it became emergent on your part doesn't mean that it became emergency on my part, because my calendar was already set. And at the point that you decided that you thought you were going to shift shit around, I didn't co-sign that. So like, no, that's not actually what's going to happen. That's one of my favorites. And two, another one of my favorites is power in the pause. Like, sometimes you just need to take a step back, kind of like I did yesterday. I was kind of going through my emotions on some stuff, and I did all of the obligations that I needed to do and took care of business, went to the gym, came home, showered, and got my ass in the bed. And like, that's okay. And I've learned that sometimes I operate better. I fully believe I operate well under stressful situations because I am able to pivot, but I don't like chaos. So that's what's really hard. But I've also learned that sometimes when I get in like stressful moments, or like I'm sad and I don't know how to deal with my emotions, I will try to put myself into overdrive to feel like I'm accomplishing all of these things. And then I reach a level of burnout. So yesterday I just put myself in the bed.
Sometimes you need that. Sometimes if you just need a minute. You need to take a beat and just have a day to yourself. And I unintentionally did that this morning. So apologies on that.
Love that for you.
Whether you're new to cannabis or you're an old pro, there's no denying that many of the products on the market seem iffy at best. And when you want to try to relax, iffy is the last thing you want to feel. Mood puts an end to the guessing games. It's 100% federally legal. Delta 8 and Delta 9 THC you can have shipped straight to you. So there's no doctors, no waiting, just affordable, legal THC. For a limited time, Mood is giving our listeners free Delta 9 gummies and 20% off your first order.
Did you know that the experts at Mood have tested and tailored different strains for specific moods? So energized for when you want to seize the day, creative to get inspired and mentally stimulated, focus, perfect for getting in the zone. Other moods like euphoric, erotic, sleepy, chill, social, body soother, and they have plenty of versatile products that go with whatever mood that you're going for. And I just think that everybody needs to jump on this and get your free Delta 9 gummies. However you like to take THC, Mood has you covered. Great for both beginner and veteran users. Great tasting gummies, classic flower, convenient pre-rolls, and so much more. Ready for a good time without the guesswork? Order your THC products from Mood today. And for 20% off your first order and free gummies, go to hellomood.com and use promo code Coffee Convos. That's hello, MOOD.com, promo code Coffee Convos for 20% off your order and free gummies.
I need to talk to you about while I've been here. So I did bring my kids with me to the event the other day, and one of my children, I don't want to give up his identity, but I'm sure y'all can figure it out on your own, has this level of entitlement, and I have some regrets here because I participated in these entitlement behaviors. I grew up very poor, didn't have parents. I wanted for a lot, I needed for a lot, and I just didn't have those resources, right? So when I had kids of my own and I was able to financially and emotionally be there for my kids in a different way than I had growing up, I subconsciously contributed to the madness, okay? And so we get to New York, and obviously in New York there's tons of stores, there's sneaker stores, there's shoe stores, there's, we went to Zara, we went to all these places. This sense of entitlement of wanting what said child wants and wants it right now, I had to tell him that this trip was not about him. He's not getting anything while we're here because you have everything that you want and need. And the only reason why you want something is because it's right here. It's like the instant gratification thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it did hurt me to say no. Because I do have the funds to get him the things that he wanted, but he didn't need them. And the sense of entitlement and the demanding almost of wanting to go to these stores infuriated me.
I can very much relate, empathize, and sympathize with this situation because, and I want you to share if you feel like you did a little bit of this through, various separations and then the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like because you feel guilty and embarrassed to some degree for not having a 2-parent home with the dads, do you feel like that you overcompensated in some ways by purchasing ability to try to offset some of that failure?
I don't think it's that for me. I hear what you're saying, and I definitely think if you've experienced any of that, I could see. But because I've been through so many failed relationships, I don't think it was that for me. I think it's more where I came from and how I grew up, that I'm overcompensating. Like I'm basically living through my children by buying them all these things and getting them all these things, and they've earned nothing.
So it's interesting that you say that because I feel like mine and your spending habits are probably very different. You have a lot more to spend on though. So like you can't really compare us because I have one. So like my funds aren't being split between multiples, if that makes sense.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what I am probably able to do for him singularly, it probably seems like way less to me than what you're having to do for as many as you have. I do feel like a lot of it has to do with your upbringing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it goes back to that same conversation that you and I had. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but you and I were having the conversation of overcompensating as mothers when you're trying to do what you didn't have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to be the mother that you didn't grow up with.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it goes into the financial situation as well. I never really wanted for anything. And so I don't live my life feeling like I have to have everything because I've never wanted for anything. And I'm blessed to be able to say that I was never in a situation to want for something because even when my parents didn't have it, my grandparents made sure we did.
It just kind of irritates me though, because it's simple things that I just didn't think of, like clothes, shoes. I don't even know how to describe this, right? Like it's, they're necessities. You would think they're necessities, right?
But it's almost like,
but they're
Kail,
not.
The more you give, the more that is expected. And so you set that tone of, okay, I've done this and now I have created a sneakerhead. So now it's every drop of whatever they have to have. I think that you have to scale it back. Simply, one, not be so hard on yourself, because as parents, we're probably all guilty to this or of this to an extent, or have had experience, whether it be through your childhood or through you raising your children. I think that you have to use this as a teaching moment for your children and let them know, okay, there's a difference between wants, desires, and needs.
Well, and I was nice to them, all the kids, really. I was just like, respectfully, this isn't about you. We're not going to go get these things. You don't need them. You didn't earn them. You know what I mean? And it sucked. It hurt me to say that because I just felt like I told you before, I had the means to do it, but it just wasn't the time. And it hurt me to do that, but
well, and how do
really
you teach your children in a society that they're growing up in, which is a lot different in the way that we grew up, because we didn't really have access to the web in the way that they do, which has created this consumer habit of when I want it, I can, it's the Amazon mentality. I want it so I can have it tomorrow because it's Prime.
Right. 100%.
And it's that instant gratification that so many of us look for. You think about like the Instacarts and Uber Eats and, all the things that they have access to now, or we as a society have access to, and wonder why children are the way that they are, because they're allowed or they're feeding into that because the parents aren't drawing a line there to say, okay, well, if you want this, then this is, you need to make a list of your wants, desires, and needs. If that remains on the list and you have earned it, then at that point we have a conversation about getting it.
Okay. That's a good idea. That's fair. And I feel like it teaches them responsibility. Like when you told me that you write things down from Amazon weekly, and then on Friday, if you still want it, you'll get it. Mm-hmm. I just like completely just try not to order off Amazon anymore, like because it was to the point where I was ordering every single day. And so I was kind of falling into that as well. And so I was like, I need to set a better example myself.
And it's hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
It's hard when it's set up to basically get what you want when you want it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. I actually have an example of what happened this weekend on Mother's Day. Jackson has been asking for this iPad 10 for a really long time, And iPads aren't cheap. And
no, they're not.
Not only are iPads not cheap, you get into the accessory game. So then it's like, the case, the screen protector, the Apple Pen, and I'm like, first of all, who do you think you are? Steve Jobs? Like, what is going on, first of all? Secondly, Will was like, you know, Jackson, you need to earn this. And I told him, I was like, you need to make a list on why you want this Apple tablet versus the Amazon one that was bought for you last summer.
Mm. Like, what is the difference? Why is the Amazon one that's practically brand new not good enough?
And he went and did research and gave me a list of all of the reasons why he wanted the iPad versus the Amazon tablet. The various different apps that like you can't get on Android and, you know, like all these other things. And I was like, you know, if you're willing to help out and you're willing to do what you're supposed to do and you have good behavior and you focus on your grades and you do all of these things, then I don't have a problem getting an iPad. But, you know, from this point forward, we need to have these conversations before I start purchasing an Amazon tablet just a year ago. And now you want an iPad, because that's not how this works. He's been asking to upgrade his phone. He got a phone when Will and I divorced. So 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years ago in July. And I told him, I was like, half the time you don't even have your phone, first of all. Secondly, there's nothing wrong with your phone. You still have the same phone that I have. So why would our kids need to upgrade their phones before we do? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Where do they get, I guess.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And I come out of the Apple store on Mother's Day and I'm like, wait, something about this is not right. Like, I am purchasing an iPad. And I text Will and I was like, listen, sweetie, I bought the iPad and the Apple Pen. So I'm going to need you to go on Amazon and Amazon a case and a screen protector, because this is not being opened until those two things are on it. And also, thanks for nothing.
Thanks for nothing.
And he's like, well, I didn't agree to that purchase. So like, I'm not agreeing to pay for it. And it kind of made me think of that conversation of like the 50-50 expenses that we had.
Right.
You know, and I'm in agreement with Will. Like, I'm the one who signed my name to that check. Like, he never showed up. He point blank said, I am not purchasing an iPad. So at that point that I went to the store and I decided to swipe my card for that became a me problem.
That's it. Just like that.
Just like that, man. So I think that maybe a conversation about wants, needs, and desires, making list of things that we want instead of impulsively going to the store, pulling something off of a shelf because we see it and we like it. We've tried really hard with that with Jackson, actually. Do you know that I used to have a toy budget in my budget?
No, but that's kind of amazing.
Well, it was funny because when Kristen was, you know, being the ultimate budgeter that she is, she was like, so like, how much should we put in here for toys? Because like, that's something that Kail doesn't really like buy a lot of, but you do. And I'm like, at the point that like toys become a budgetable item, I'm doing too much. So we need to change our Target habits, which don't we all? Like,
I don't go to Target. I love Target, but I it's kind of far from my house, so I just don't go anymore. But yeah, agreed. Like, at the point that, you know, extra outside of the necessities of like clothes and shoes at my house and like toys at your house become part of the budget, that's when we have to like really look at this.
Yeah, like you have to dial it back. And so that's when I started having conversations with Jackson about like, we're not just going to look at the Target toy aisle to be like the American consumer. Oh, I see it, I wanted to get it. Like, we're not going to do that. But for anybody who is listening to this, if you have little girls, I just went to Target. Actually, I go to Target all the time, like multiple times a week. But I was perusing through the clothes stuff for summer, and the amount of outfits and options that they have for girls compared to the little like small section of boy stuff is insane.
It's insane. It's insane. I went into Zara right here on the corner in New York. They had a lot of really good options for boys, and I just couldn't believe it because we don't have a Zara within an hour of us in Delaware. So I was like, this is really nice. I didn't buy anything, but Target absolutely does not have that many options at all.
Yeah, but they have like a really, really good selection of like summer girl stuff right now. And I'm like, to have a girl, like the clothing would be a big problem. That would be another conversation about budgeting items that I would need to have with Kristen.
Let me tell you, the other day, Isaac's 13, and I don't know, we were at a birthday party, and I see him walking in front of me, and I'm like, his pants are a little short. You know what I mean? He just hit that growth spurt. So I just went online. I went on his Stitch Fix profile. I adjusted his sizes so that we would get, sizes that fit him better. And I did the monthly option for him just because he is getting older. He needs some things that fit him. And it just feels so good to have the legwork taken out of this. He got his fix in the mail. I think there was only 2 things that weren't really his style. He kept the rest, sent the other ones back. And what is a game changer for me is the return label that is included so that you can return the items that you don't want, because I'm horrible at returning things. If it doesn't come with a return label, I'm probably not returning it.
You and everybody else who's probably listening to this, if you guys have not heard of Stitch Fix is the best way to discover new styles and brands that are just for you. You guys can think of Stitch Fix as your style partner. Your stylist will learn about your taste and collaborate with you on looks that you'll love. All you have to do is just answer a few questions about where you typically like to shop, what you like to wear, and your price range. And with your choices in mind and with a wide range of sizes available, they'll find your perfect fit. They've got you covered with over 1,000 brands and styles. You can try your pieces at home like Kail was talking about before you buy. You keep what you love, you send back the rest, plus shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. No subscription required, so you can do the option where you get it monthly like Kail was talking about, or you can just simply order a refresh as needed. Set it and forget it with regular seasonal fixes. You're in control. And right now, Stitch Fix is offering our listeners $20 off their first fix at stitchfix.com/convos. That's stitchfix.com/convos for $20 off today. stitchfix.com/convos.
Do you fantasize about who you'd be if you lived somewhere different? Maybe you'd surf if you lived by the ocean, or if you lived by a coffee shop, maybe you'd finally write that novel. If you had a dishwasher, maybe you'd actually cook a proper dinner at home.
With over 1 million available units for rent on apartments.com, the you abilities are endless. And with instant alerts, you'll never miss out on seeing what could be your new perfect place. Visit apartments.com, the place to find a place.
Outside of that, I wanted to tell you about this other TikTok that I saw, and I want to know if you might not feel comfortable answering this, but it was about at what age can children be left home alone? And this was like a Georgia TikToker, and I'll share these TikToks that I'm talking about on Instagram, but it says in Georgia, there's no particular law that says at this age, children can't be left home alone. However, DFACS, which is our version of Child Protective Services, says that children between the ages of 9 and 12 can be left home alone approximately for 2 hours. Children ages 13 and older can be left home alone. And if they are responsible enough, they can be the children who babysit beginning at the age of 13.
I think this really is one of those things that depends on the maturity of the child and do they have access? Yeah, like do they have access to a phone and communication? Should there be an emergency? Is there an emergency plan in place? Do you have neighbors they can go to, et cetera, et cetera? Because this is one of those things where, there are kids who might be 13 years old who get left home. They're told not to use the stove and they've used the stove and then the house burns down. Or there's a child who's the same age somewhere else who, is fully capable of working the stove, knowing how to use the stove and can babysit. You know what I mean? It just depends on the circumstances. I don't know. I've never looked at Delaware's laws on this. I think it truly depends on the maturity of the child.
I can only remember growing up, I was in 4th grade and my parents started, like they would go and look at real estate and stuff and would leave me home for like a couple of hours by myself in 4th grade. How old are you in 4th grade?
Lincoln's 9, gonna be 10. Lincoln's 10. He's going into 4th grade. He'll be 10.
So I must have been around like right that age, maybe like on the lower end of that range. And then by 5th grade, I was keeping Chase and Savannah at home. I was, helping Savannah put on her days of the week panties. Like I was doing all the shit. I was fixing fruit roll-ups. I was like doing all the stuff, but I was mature. and always have been a very mature child that was trustworthy. I think a lot of it has to do with the trust of your child too. Like, do you trust them to do simple functions in the house? If you do not, they should not be left home alone. Like, at this point, I would leave Jackson home to go check the mail.
Okay.
If I'm walking in my neighborhood, I would leave him home because I'm still in the neighborhood if he's playing his game. But he knows, like, you're not to go into the kitchen. You're not supposed to open like any silverware drawers. He doesn't even know how to turn on the stove. So like, that's not even anything. I'm just like, don't go anywhere near anything that is dangerous. And like, actually just don't come down the stairs because you have a bathroom upstairs and your hangout room is upstairs. So like, I'm not trying to come home and feel like you need a life alert because you tripped down the stairs and I wasn't here to help.
Oh, I didn't even think about the stairs. That's a good point.
You know, like, I'm so paranoid about stuff like that. But outside of that, like, if it requires me to get in my car to go somewhere, I'm not leaving my child at home alone at his age. As a rising fourth grader, I know my parents did with me, but I just don't feel like he is ready for that. If I'm gone for like 30 minutes on a walk, my phone or my watch starts blowing up. Mom, where are you? How far away are you? When are you going to be home? And I'm like, yeah, for those reasons alone, I'm not getting in the car. And as a single parent, it's scary because if something, let's say I got in my car and I pulled out of my neighborhood and I got in a car accident, God forbid, what would happen?
Yeah. Like, he wouldn't know and you wouldn't be able to tell anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. That is really scary.
So I'm like,
I also think boys tend to, not saying in all cases, tend to mature a little bit slower than girls. So I could see you and I were left home, you know, at those ages, and our boys maybe not ready for that.
Okay. We have 2 questions from our listeners. The first one, and I already know roughly about what your answer is going to be on this. Is traveling with a 1-year-old fun? I'm really itching for a vacation, but not sure it would feel like a vacation with a 15-month-old. I need honest opinions.
Don't do it.
It's been so long since I've traveled with a 1-year-old. And I will say the first trip that we ever took Jackson on, I think that he was like 6 months old. And I drove a little small Mercedes. And that thing had the tiniest ass back seat and trunk that like you have ever seen on a vehicle. And it filled up the entire back seat and the trunk of all the shit that I thought that I needed to go on a beach trip with him. The bouncer, the pack and play, I don't know, saucer shit. I don't know. I brought literally everything that I had because I didn't know what I would need or what I wouldn't need. And maybe that's part of being like a first time mom, and maybe I wouldn't do those same things if I had another baby. It's kind of like the Loves commercial, you know, like by the time you get to the next one, like you don't really care. But it is a lot of work to do it, but I don't know. I think that I would give the opposite advice of you. I think I would say do it because you're only going to be able to create these memories one time with this child. So as chaotic as it may be, and I always say this, as parents, when we take our children on vacation, you need a vacation from your vacation. So if it's anytime you're bringing kids on a vacation, I feel like you are deserving of a vacation from your vacation with your children.
Creed is about to be 3 this summer, and I would say only now is it, I feel like, fun to watch, you know, them interact, you know, in a vacation. I've taken all my kids on vacations as small children. And now that I'm older, I'm like, first of all, they're not going to remember. Second of all, I don't want to get up early to essentially just do the same things I'm going to do at home with a 6-month-old in a tropical location or a cabin location or whatever the case may be. If that's important to you and you want to do that and you don't mind, then do it. I think it really depends on how you feel. But for me, you know, I've done it. And I just don't think, for me, it's not a fun time.
See, I really admire what I know about what I have heard about my ex-sister-in-law with their 2 children. She kind of takes those babies everywhere, and they don't let having small children stop them from anything that life throws their way. So if they want to strap those babies on them and go and do like a Sunday fun day or Saturday or, you know, whatever it is, trip, lake, they pack up and go. And I don't know that that's really necessarily my personality, but I admire it.
Oh, 100%. I admire that so much. I also know someone like that. And I think when you do that on a regular basis, it's really good. But when you are talking about, you know, a trip once or twice a year, the kids aren't going to get used to that like they would if you're doing it every week. You know, going on a hike, going on a walk, getting strapped to, you know, mom. I strapped Lincoln to me very, very early on. And so he was used to it all the way up until after a year old. Lux, on the other hand, I tried to introduce him to baby wearing when it was too late, and he hated it. So I think the more, you know, the earlier on you start it and the more regularly you do it makes sense. But if you, like I said, if you're talking about 1 or 2 times a year, just wait till they're older. It's not worth the headache. But, you know, Lindsie and I are not very helpful here because we're giving you opposite opinions.
I know. And I'm like, I just love like I cherish, there's like these little beach photos of Jackson where his toes are still like in that phase where they're like curled, and just like his rolls everywhere, like on his legs with just like sand in them. And I'm like, that's so cute. But if it's just not for you, it's just not for you. And I think that you have to decide what works for your family, and whatever works for your family is what works. Okay, next question. What would you do if a stepmom restricts your children from bringing their phone places like car rides, store, etc.? They limit their use when they're home, so it's hard to reach them when you wish to, but then text them the whole week when they're with me. I can say Will and I kind of had a little problem with the phone issue early on when he got it and he was going back and forth. Like Will's rules at his house were different than my rules at my house. And the whole intention of purchasing the phone was so that Jackson never felt limited in communication with any family member. So if he wanted to communicate with someone from my family, he had free reign to do so. With me, free reign. Will, his parents, his aunt and uncles, like on that side, I wanted him to feel like his life didn't change by being restricted to when he's just over here, he can just have something to do with my family. And when he's just over there, he can just have something to do with them. That is one decision that I do not regret doing. And I think it was a very healthy decision, although I don't think that Jackson was really old enough to have a cell phone. The life circumstance just changed that altogether, I think. I think that you have to get on the same page, because as adults, you can't have two different, it's kind of like, you know, the things we were talking about, chores, like there's certain set of chores over here, but then there's either no chores over here. So there's nothing that's consistent through that child's life. So I think creating a consistent schedule, if, you know, the stepmom's not allowing the phone over there, then, you know, you have to set boundaries at your house or somehow get on the same page to where it at least matches, because that's not fair.
I agree. I would feel some type of way if any of my 3 situations, the stepmom or girlfriend felt that they are in a place where they could limit my child's ability to communicate with me while I'm over there. That would be a boundary that would need to be set early on, and I wouldn't stand for that.
I don't think that, so from my perspective, my dad very much limited Julie's ability to be able to make any decisions when it came to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he trusted her enough to have me all the time, but wouldn't trust her enough to allow her to make decisions. And everything had to be ran through him. As a child, I feel like I missed out on a lot of aspects of that relationship with her had he allowed her to treat me like her own versus different. So there would have never been a situation where she would have been trying to ever limit communication with my biological mother. But just in other situations, there was a restriction on that. And so I believe if 2 people are going to be together and live under the same roof and function as a family there, then I do think a stepmom has a place to have some say. But I think that where the stepmom doesn't have a place to have some say, is when it comes to the communication with the mother. And I know you probably disagree with that, but I have to put myself in the shoes walking as Julie.
Yeah. I'm hearing you. I don't know how I feel about it.
I can give you an example. This will be an example.
Okay.
Can I go to the football game on Friday? I don't know. You have to ask your dad. Why do I need to ask my dad? Like Chase and Savannah asked you and you said yes. Why am I asking my dad?
Okay. For that, I feel
like, why can't I just go?
Right. If you already said yes to the other two kids, that should be a situation where she should have been able to say yes to you as well. Because if, at the point that your dad is also agreeing that the two other ones can go, then why would he say no to you specifically?
But it was always he made the decisions when it came to me. So don't make a decision when it comes to, because I was his child. Don't make decisions about my child.
I think there's a fine line. So I agree with you to an extent, and I hear what you're saying about, it made you feel left out almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like the example that you just gave make sense to me. Like if she said yes to two children, obviously your dad was also on board. It should have been a yes for you. There are certain things that I would not want any of my situations, other parent or girlfriend to make decisions on. For example,
give me an example, because I might agree with you.
Lux's most recent haircut. He had his girlfriend or baby mama, whatever she is, cut the hair. I don't feel like he should have asked her specifically to cut it, and I don't feel like she was in the right to cut my son's hair.
And see, that's why I think you got to dial it all the way back down of the relationships between the parents should all be established and kosher so that we're not running into issues like this. Because if the relationships were the way that they should be, you're not in love with Chris and Chris isn't in love with you, right?
Correct.
So it didn't work out between y'all, but that doesn't mean that it can't work out with somebody else for you and somebody else for him.
Right.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have probably reached that point.
Right.
But there should be some level of comfortability for him to be able to reach out to you to say, hey, can so-and-so cut, Lux or Creed's hair because they need a haircut, or for her to feel comfortable enough, as the mother of the children, or as I don't know if she's stepmom, like whatever she is, to say to the mother of the children, hey, Chris asked me to cut their hair and I just wanted to make sure that like everything was fine because I know that we've had issues about this in the past.
Correct. Like, for example, another situation that I have, it was asked to me, can so-and-so post pictures because of said issues, right? Mm-hmm. And at the time I was like, I don't want the pictures posted. Everybody respected that. And so when they respected that and I felt like, everybody was on the same page, at mm-hmm. that point I was like, now I am comfortable because you guys didn't go behind my back. You didn't, make it something that it wasn't. And so I respected that. I respected the fact that it was asked. I was respected that it wasn't posted. And then to that point, I was like, okay, like, obviously you have enough respect for the situation. Maybe not for me, maybe not for him, but for my child. And now moving forward, I'm okay with it. And so
it's basically like an action of, I see you and I hear you without having to say it.
Right. Right. And so it's just situations like that when it comes to step parents. It's difficult. And I could say, but something as permanent as cutting hair versus going to a football game, absolutely not. You shouldn't even have when the father of the child asked you or told you to do that, you knowing the situation should have been like, I don't feel comfortable doing
not
this.
My monkey, not my circus,
exactly.
Not getting involved.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Because I certainly would. Like if I knew that there was, something going on in a situation that was before me with somebody that I was dating and
there's a child involved.
And there's a child involved, I would draw a hard line in the sand with my boyfriend or if he became my husband and say, that's not my place to get involved in that. And that's something that you guys need to remedy over there because you're causing me stress over here. And I don't want to be involved in that.
Right. I agree with you there wholeheartedly.
Foul play.
Foul play, everybody. Hi, ladies. Longtime fan and listener to all the podcasts between the two of you, and foul plays always crack me up, but this one unfortunately happened to me. My husband and I recently spent the first night away from our 1.5-year-old and had ourselves a little date night while my mom babysat our daughter. After coming home from dinner, we decided to have some adult fun on some blankets on our living room floor in front of the fireplace. Oh, that's cute. What a romantic little evening. This adult fun happened to include a small red vibrator. After we finished, I asked my husband if he picked the vibrator up, cleaned it, and put it away. We both consumed a good amount of alcohol, and drunkenly, he confirmed that he did that. Spoiler alert, he did not. Somehow it rolled under our couch, and we just didn't notice. Well, it was probably vibrating under there. Like, it probably vibrated its way over there. Anyway.
Oh, my God. But again, I'm questioning him because, like, why are you lying about this? Like, if you're lying
she was saying he was drunk.
Yeah, but, like, if you're that drunk, then you're too drunk to be using a vibrator.
I mean, well, let's see where this story goes. Fast forward, a few days later, my mother-in-law came over during the day to visit with our daughter. I'm a stay-at-home mom and my husband was at work, so it was just me, our daughter, and my mother-in-law here. I was in the kitchen making my daughter lunch when my mother-in-law comes in and says, I don't know what this is, but I found it under the couch. I didn't want the baby to get it. It was, of course, the red vibrator my husband claimed to have put away. As you can imagine, I'm completely traumatized and unsure if she claimed she didn't know what it was to save my feelings. Either way, hands down, the most embarrassing moment of my life. We have not spoken about this since, but my husband sure was ripped a new one. Love you, ladies, and the podcast. Thanks for reading my traumatic story. Hope to hear it on the podcast soon. Well, she definitely knew what it was.
But did she?
Because she said, I didn't want the baby to get it. Why wouldn't you assume it was like a dog toy or like a baby toy?
Oh, yeah, you're right. She definitely knew. Do you think it was the flower? Or what do they call it? The rose?
The rose. It was probably the rose.
Just because I'm thinking like red and just all the stuff that's popped off about the rose and the Kitty Gang group chat. I'm like, it was definitely the rose.
But I feel like in front of the fireplace on the floor is kind of nice. So that was probably a good time.
Do you feel like people using vibrators and stuff is like common in
sexcapades? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like I just don't
spice it up somehow.
Like I've just never done that.
Well, you should try it.
You should try it. You might like it.
The next foul play says, hey, ladies, love the podcast. I listen every week and to all your other podcasts also. Y'all rock. I've been meaning to send this in. My husband and I are one of the only couples in our friend group that own a home and live out in the middle of nowhere. With that being said, we usually have all the parties at our house because we have a huge garage and then we can be as loud as we want. One night we were both drinking pretty heavily. I love that both of these stories are involving alcohol, and I don't know where this is going to go.
And listeners to all of our podcasts, and also just want to say, who else would absolutely hate being the entertaining house all the time?
All the time. That would piss me off. But she's saying they can be as loud as they want, and they do it in the garage, so maybe it's not so bad. It's not like you're like preparing inside the house. You know what I mean? Inside the house.
For those reasons, I'm still out.
One night, we were both drinking pretty heavily and kept sneaking away to go make out. I know, middle school shit. Well, anyway, as the night went on, we decided we were going to do the deed and come back to the party. We were in the middle of doggy style, and he stops all of a sudden. I was very confused. Before I could turn around, he threw up all over the back of my leg and all down the side of our bed.
Nope.
Oh, no. I jumped up to clean it, and I jumped up and cleaned myself off and went to get stuff to clean the bed, all while he literally rolls onto the side of the bed and passes out. We woke up the next morning and I told him that what he did, and he was so apologetic and embarrassed, as he should. He said it must have been the motion of the ocean.
He got seasick.
But I told our friends that we're at the party and we don't let him live it down. Okay. Love you guys. Keep up the great work. So imagine leaving all your guests like in the garage. Like, do they all just like trickle out slowly, or do they stay overnight? Like, what happens?
No, I feel like people just keep in situations like that. It's like if people go missing, it's kind of like you've got your Irish goodbyers. You've got people who might be trying to get in a quickie. You have people who might have passed out somewhere in various locations. If you're Kristen, you might be passed out in a field.
there's just like a lot of stuff that could be going on when you get like a big group of adults together who are drinking in a garage, that I feel like they would just have continued partying. And then at the point that they never came back, at that point, they kind of just like started, okay, we're going home, we're going home, we're going home, until it was just like cleaned out. And the only thing left to do was to clean the throw up off
on the back of the bed or on the side of the bed.
Correct.
Ew. Ew.
There was a lot of motion in that ocean because the seasickness was happening.
Oh, yeah. That would really make me sick
If someone
as well.
ever threw up on me, I'm not talking to you for 5 or 6 days.
I need a several day
break. I need
Yeah.
to gather my thoughts. I need to really decide what position that I'm going to be taking on this. Don't want to be impulsive by thinking that it's okay, but it's really not. So yeah, thank you to both of you who wrote in. Don't forget to write in to us and send us all of your foulest of foul plays. Thank you for listening to all of our collective shows. We really appreciate it. And if you have not followed us on at Coffee Convos Podcast on Instagram, you can follow us there. If you have not subscribed to the show, you can find us on any podcast app, always first at Podcast One. We hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
See what's streaming free all month long during Amplify AAPI Voices on Pluto TV. Watch shows like Kim's Convenience with Simu Liu and amazing movies like Meet the Patels and Jason Momoa in Braven. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies and TV shows available on live and on demand. Download Pluto TV on all your favorite devices for free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.